Hello, students. Today we're going to take a look at conclusions, and then we're going to revise your literary analysis essay to strengthen your conclusion. So let's begin with our learning objectives. Learning objective. After reading and discussing a model of student writing, students will develop their drafts by improving their conclusions. Easy enough. So, as always, I'd recommend starting out by watching the concept definition video and reading the introduction that is beneath the video on tab 1. Note that it does make a difference between argumentative essay writing, which is what you're doing, has a thesis statement and claims as well as evidence to support those claims, versus something like a narrative essay, which is more of a creative writing essay. After you are finished with tab 1, move over to tab 2 and do the quick vocabulary drag and drop just to make sure that you are familiar with these terms. After which we will go over to the model page, and as always, the top half of the page gives you specific instructions as well as a checklist for writing a good conclusion, as well as some options for trying to generate some ideas for your conclusion. But let's take a look at the student model. So, student model we'll read through together. It says, let's take a look at the first draft of the conclusion from Caroline's literary analysis essay. And here is her first draft. So this paragraph here was what was originally on the student example in her draft. All three authors want to change the world, so they use their words. The selections she unnames them, Speech to Second Virginia Convention, and Letter from Birmingham Jail, all use powerful words to say important stuff about the world. Patrick Henry and Martin Luther King Jr. talk about injustices and challenges their audience to think about the world in a new way. The character of Eve recognizes the power of naming and finds freedom by giving up her name. So after discussing her ideas with a partner and reviewing her draft, Caroline notices that her conclusion simply just restates her original claim, her thesis statement, almost exactly as it appeared in the introduction paragraph. So she needs to rephrase that claim in the conclusion that shows the depth of her knowledge about the topic. And she also wants to add some of her own thoughts in order to make an impression on the audience at the end. And then finally, Caroline notices some vague or informal language, such as use their words and important stuff and talk about injustices. So she decides to use more formal and precise language that fits the context in order to express her ideas more appropriately and accurately. So let's go ahead and take a look at the revision that she made. Words are everywhere. It's easy to tune them out or think that they don't mean much. But when life turns serious and there are injustices and wrongs to fix, people rely on the power of words. In Speech to the Second Virginia Convention and Letter from Birmingham Jail, Patrick Henry and Martin Luther King Jr. describe terrible injustices and challenge their audience to think about the world in a new way and to take action. And she names them. Eve recognizes the power of naming and finds freedom by giving up a name that she didn't choose. She decides that she's up to the challenge of using language thoughtfully and carefully instead of chattering. All have learned, as have we, in reading these three selections, that language can be an important and powerful tool for changing the world in serious ways. So she changed her conclusion pretty substantially, and I like the revisions that she made. Instead of beginning the conclusion with rephrasing her thesis statement or her claim, she included some of her own observations about the power of words. So she has a lot more of her own writing in there. Then she connected her observations to the content of the three selections and then reviewed her points for each one, kind of grouping together Speech to Second Virginia and Letter from Birmingham Jail under one, and then she names them for another one. And lastly, by moving her rephrased claim to the last sentence of the paragraph, she was able to reinforce her main message and make it more likely that the audience will remember it. Just remember this: the way that you end an essay is going to be the thing that readers remember most about the essay. So that's a really great place to restate your thesis, is at the very end, because it's kind of the last final thing that people remember. So hopefully you see what I'm saying, that this revision is a much better conclusion than what she started with in her draft. And hopefully you can apply the same types of things using this checklist to your own conclusion. All right, once you are finished with the model page, then go ahead and answer a couple of quick multiple choice questions here on tab 4 just to check your own understanding. And then finally, in the right tab, you are going to go ahead and copy and paste your current conclusion from your draft assignment. You can find that in the binder into this window. And you're going to work with it and try to do the same thing that Caroline did with hers, using the checklist points, which you can actually bring up side by side if you do a split screen. You're going to try to revise your essay to make it stronger. In addition, another feature that you have is the organizer tab. And this is where you can break it down even a little bit more into different chunks. So you can summarize your main points in one box. You can rephrase your claim in another box. You can add your own thoughts, your own writing in this box, and then you can use that as notes for revising your conclusion. Once you have finished revising your conclusion and it's improved and where you want it to be, then go ahead and submit this assignment. This is not going to be an individual grade in the gradebook, but it is important that you do this so that your final draft of your essay is all ready to go with an improved conclusion. All right, as always, if you're struggling, if you're lost, if you need some ideas, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with you.